Come on in, yeah. Welcome into this space. It is time for midweek connection. I am so glad you are here in this room. We're gathered together in this space. We are studying the Tao Te Ching. And I don't know whether you noticed or not, but my buddy Saint Nick is here. And we have a little Christmas tree going on there. And in the other camera view, you might be able to see some more of the stuff. Maybe, I don't know. There's stuff. My wife is the magical decor person. Carrie has gotten the room ready because it is December the 1st. We are beginning into the month of Christmas, Hanukkah, Christmas, Kwanzaa celebration of winter solstice, and the coming beauty of the changing of seasons, and I'm thankful for all of that. I love all of the change of seasons, and I'm deeply appreciative of all that we have an opportunity to do as our wonderful community of love. We are one love. That's one love. Together we are one. We recognize our oneness with all of creation, and not just the people of one particular religion, not even people only, but the trees and the grass and the animals and the air that we breathe. All of it is connected. We're all connected to this wonderful system in this human expression on this earth, and we are thankful for that. We're thankful for the recognition of our position in the planet with everything that's going on around us. So, if you would just receive a deep breath, allow yourself to come into agreement with this oneness that we all are, this presence that we all are. I saw a video a few minutes ago. Our brother John Stringer and one of his friends were doing a Facebook Live, and they talked about how that when they greeted each other, immediately the friend of John Stringer said he did this and then did that. And John did this. And there was this occurrence in their head together. Man, wait a minute, hold on a second. Maybe we've come up with a new salute. Third eye, power, love, consciousness, all are one in consciousness and in power of creation. I can't remember exactly all they said, but I thought, what a salute. Third eye open, power and consciousness, oneness. Isn't that lovely? There is a way for us to operate in this awareness of oneness with all of life. And for that, I'm deeply, deeply, deeply appreciative. If you would take a moment and just allow yourself to center. I call this centering prayer. It's a time when we can gather together and participate in prayerful, meditative, contemplative awareness. Let's just be present now in this space. With my whole being, I say thank you. Thank you, beautiful Holy Spirit, pure presence, Dao. And as we come into this season of Hanukkah and Christmas and Kwanzaa, this holiday season that we move toward the celebration of the birth of Jesus, but more than the birth of Jesus, the person, the birthing into our awareness of the Christ light that shines within us all. May we allow the Christ to be born anew on the inside of us. I pray as one of my teachers prayed. May I have the heart of Christ and the mind of the Buddha. May I have the mind of Christ and also the heart of the Buddha, enlightened, expanded, living consciously. And may the power that Jesus walked in be the same power I recognize I can walk in. And so it is. And so it is. Whew. Ain't that all right? All right. Let's get into verse 62 for everyone who's joining for the first time, possibly. We've been studying the Tao Te Ching, one of my favorite translations. This is actually called the New English Version of the Tao Te Ching. It's by a wonderful soul, Stephen Mitchell, who has written really several very conscious, aware books, but he did a translation of the Tao, and I really got engaged with that particular translation. And there's several hundred, I'm not sure how many really translations of the Tao out there, but this one is really one of my favorites. If I was going to title this evening's chat about the Tao, verse 62, I would title it Living in the Tao House of Treasure. Living in the Tao House of Treasure. And let's look at verse 62 from Stephen Mitchell's translation. And then I have two other translations I'd like to look at this evening as well, and some things I'd like to point out. The Tao is the center of the universe, the good man's treasure, the bad man's refuge. Honors can be bought with fine words. Respect can be won with good deeds. But the Tao is beyond all value, and no one can actually achieve it. Thus, when a new leader is chosen, don't offer to help him or her with your wealth and your expertise. Offer instead to teach him or her about the Tao. Why did the ancient masters esteem the Tao? Because being one with the Tao, when you seek, you find. And when you make a mistake, you are forgiven. That is why everybody loves it. Now let me say before I read another couple of translations that I recognize that it's very interesting to actually see the language good and bad, as if there's really good and bad people, that is. It's interesting to see that language because really the rest of Lao Tzu's approach to humankind is those who are close to the Tao and those who are far away from it. He doesn't really speak in terms of the opposing views of good and bad as far as people are concerned. Maybe good and bad things, but not good and bad people. So it's interesting to see that here. Made me want to dig into it a little deeper. I found a couple of different translations. This one is, I'm unsure of the author of this particular translation, but it says, the way is the source of all things. Good people's treasure and bad people's refuge. Fine words are traded, noble deeds gain respect, but people who are not good, why abandon them? So when the emperor is crowned or the 3 dukes are appointed, rather than sending a gift of jade carried by 4 horses, remain still and offer the way. Why did the ancients praise the way? Did they not say it was because you find what you seek and are saved from your wrongdoings? That is why the world praises it. I wanted to read this translation or offer it this evening because I like where it says, fine words are traded, noble deeds gain respect, but people who are not good, why abandon them? So I wanted to stick there for just a moment. Let's look at something that I wrote down and I felt like that it could be used here. I gathered some information from online and essentially titled this sort of section that I want to read to you, Caring for All. Having an all mentality instead of an us and them, ins and outs, having an all-encompassing, a oneness mentality about it. Therefore, the first thing that the emperor should receive when crowned is the understanding of Dao, or the way, as is mentioned in this previous translation, and the compassion that the way promotes. So I wanted to, what really spoke to me again was this part that said, but people who are not good, why abandon them? Or we could use another terminology, why cast them out? So should the three dukes, San Kung, in Chinese, this important trio of ancient China consisted of the Grand Preceptor, the Grand Mentor, and the Grand Guardian. In later verses in the Tao Te Ching, they were changed to three ministers, San Qing, rather than San Kung, San Qing, those of education, war, and work, because they became more important in the government of China. So that's just a little bit of a translation of that when it's talking about dukes. I mean, dukes obviously are a terminology that's in English. So this is probably an English translation. Notice this. Rulers on all levels must understand that society can only improve if all its inhabitants are guided and improved. Can I get a witness? Somebody. So this is what I mean by caring for all, not just some. We're facing this right now as an American society where there's this view of us and them, where the top 1%, I don't want to get all political here, but the top 1% gain and gain and gain and gain, and then the poor are so far removed, there's such a huge gap between the poorest of the poor and the richest of the rich, that what happens is that the middle will eventually implode. Kind of like a light pole. If it gets too separate, too far, and it's not thick enough in the middle, it's not thick enough at the bottom, it's going to tumble over, or it will bend and break from the middle. So what we're seeing happening with really the middle class is the reference. I really don't like that reference. But what we're seeing happening in the middle class is we're seeing a real sense of strain and stress. We need to learn how to care for all of our society. Caring for all people is really, I think, what Lao Tzu's saying here when he's talking about fine words can be sold. Noble deeds gain respect. But people who are not good, quote unquote good, why abandon them? So rulers on all levels must understand that society can only improve if all its inhabitants are guided and improved. If just the ones who already behave decently are cared for, the others will soon cause tremendous problems. When they are deserted and damned, the only thing remaining for them to do is to revolt. And we're seeing that. People are talking about revolution. Revolution is fine, but evolution is even better. Evolution comes, though, when there's a sense of caring for all. Evolution, after revolution, leads to involution, which is to go inside and return to your original self. It's to go inside, involution, to go inside and find the conscious self. But as a society, rules, from a rules and a governmental standpoint, that's what's being taught here, is that if you desert those who you consider to be damned, the only thing they have left to do is to revolt. This is why we're invited into the treasure house of Tao. Now, I don't want to get ahead of myself. There's a couple of other things I want to attach to this, but stay with me for just a moment. Caring for all people is what we're called to. If we consider ourselves to be followers of Jesus, and during this Christmas season, of course, we're thinking more about Jesus. If we consider ourselves to be followers of Jesus, Jesus said, and I do actually consider myself to be a follower of Jesus. Jesus said, love your enemies, do good to those who wish you harm, pray for those who persecute you, and bless those who curse you. He was also, to a degree, saying here, don't just cheer on those who are good and then abandon or cast out the bad, but include all, care for all, and caring for all will ultimately build the whole thing up. Caring for the bad as well as the good is not only the compassionate thing to do, it's actually the practical thing to do. Keeping the poor is not practical. Ultimately, it's going to lead to angst, it's going to lead to anger and bitterness and a revolt. And as the revolt happens, violence explodes. And as it explodes from the bottom up. And then the foundation has been removed and then the top tumbles. Is there anybody with me? We're on the verge of that if we're not careful. And so we need to learn to shift our attitude toward caring for all people, seeing the value in all people, recognizing the intrinsic goodness and divine presence that each one is, and being able to separate their bad deeds from the person themselves. All right, now I want to go a little further with this then, because I have a couple points I want to make. This is an Edwin Shaw translation of the Tao. The Tao is the center of the universe, the good man's treasure, the bad man's refuge. Honors can be bought with fine words. Respect can be won with deeds. But the Tao is beyond all value, and no one can achieve it. Thus, when a new leader is chosen, don't offer to help him with your wealth or your expertise. Offer instead to teach him about the Tao. Why did the ancient masters esteem the Tao? Because being one with the Tao, when you seek, you find, and when you make a mistake, you are forgiven. That is why everybody loves it. And that is the Edwin Shaw translation that is nearly word for word. In fact, it looks word for word to Stephen Mitchell's translation. Let me share a few things with you that came to mind as I was meditating on this. Besides the caring for all, and hopefully I've made that point. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do well and that you shouldn't prosper. I'm not saying that you should give all of your wealth away, although Jesus told the rich man, sell everything you have and give it to the poor. That's how you're going to enter the kingdom or come into space with me. I think the reason Jesus told him that was not because everyone who's rich should sell everything they have and give to the poor. I think Jesus told that specific man that because he was trying to get across the point that you don't have your riches have you. And if your riches have you, you're a slave to them, so give it away. All right. How do we work this verse? And what are some spiritual aspects that we can take away from it? These are obviously just my opinions and my feelings on it. Number one, practice seeing the door to the house of Tao always open to you. See yourself as the sacred Tao being you actually are. You're eternally connected to the source of all life. Remember that it says that the Tao is the center of the universe. You're connected to it. Visualize yourself as one who belongs in the house with all of the Tao treasure available to you at all times. The doors are never closed to you, and this home of the Tao is your private retreat filled with love and filled with life and all of the treasure that comes along with the natural flow of life, which is the Tao. What's that have to do with what we've been saying so far? Well, it's sort of the other side of things. If you want to be in what's called the good side of Tao or living with the flow of Tao, then practice seeing the door to the house of the treasures of Tao always open to you, never closed. See the treasure of the Tao, the source, the force from which we all come. See the beauty of all of that available to you. You know, when we talk about emptying out, people think that that means having nothing. No, emptying out means opening yourself up, letting go of the ownership of anything, and opening yourself up really to be able to embrace everything You don't lose anything, you embrace everything, and everything begins to embrace you. And now you have a constant flow of abundance and prosperity. When you're in the flow of Dao, prosperity is going to find you. It'll come looking for you in the strangest ways. This is not about not having anything. This is about not allowing anything to have you, and remembering that all of the source of prosperity and abundance and plenty, and when I say prosperity and abundance, I'm not talking about money. If that's where your head goes toward money, then we're misunderstanding what Dao is. Dao is just the natural flow of life. When I'm talking about prosperity and abundance, everything that the grass needs to grow came from the Dao. Everything that the trees need to grow came from the Dao. Everything that the clouds need to produce rain came from the Dao. Every breath that you receive moving through the trees and coming back to you came from the Dao. My point is when you're in the flow of Dao, you're in the flow with creative force, and you cannot help but prosper in every single way. Number 2, practice forgiveness and non-judgment when you see bad behavior, first in you and in others. Can I get a witness? Somebody. Practice forgiveness. Pre-forgiveness and the habit of pre-forgiveness. Go into every situation pre-forgiving, knowing that forgiveness is always, you can't run out of it. Well, when somebody does me wrong, I'm going to just let them do me wrong again. We'll be able to separate their wrongdoing from the person and stop casting out the person, even though you cast out the wrongdoing. Practice forgiveness and non-judgment when you see bad behavior. I wrote this down, and I believe that this is practical for us. Lao Tzu's advice is that we be able to separate people from their toxic behavior. Lao Tzu's advice is that we be able to separate people from their toxic behavior, to not just associate them as the sum total of the behavior. Aren't you glad that the Tao is able to do that with you? Aren't you glad that God, if we want to call it that, is able to do that with you? That God's grace, that God's mercy, that the Tao's grace and the Tao's mercy is so expanded that the sum total of who you are is not measured by the wrongs you've done. And so Lao Tzu is just inviting us to do what the Tao already does for us daily. Really in this particular verse, we could say that the verse in the Christian New Testament that says God causes it to rain on the just and the unjust, or in the Bible, that God causes it to rain on the just and the unjust, could be easily put into this particular verse. That God doesn't see good or bad people. God, divine, source and force, Tao, can certainly set apart the toxic activity from the person and still embrace and love the person even beyond the toxic activity. This is actually what love is. Love is not being able to feel compassionate toward people who do everything you want them to do. That's easy. That's not really the test of love. The test of love is being able to radically include people who don't do the stuff you think should be done. That's really love. That's really compassion. That's really what radical inclusion is. So, Lao Tzu advises that we be able to separate people from their toxic behavior. Check this out. You can cast out wickedness without casting out the person. You can cast out or cast aside, get rid of, abhor wickedness without casting out the person. Practice realizing that everyone you come in contact with is a divine being, and they are just as divine as you are, even if their behavior is despicable. This is what I've said to you before, being able to see the actor behind the action, being able to see the consciousness behind the actor behind the action, being able to see that that person really is a representation of your own consciousness, truthfully, but being able to see past all of the activity and embrace that person as well. This is our work to do. It really is. So practice realizing that everyone you come in contact with is as divine as you are, even if their behavior is despicable. Each person is a divine creation of the Tao. Remember, they are operating with the capacity of consciousness they have. One of the easiest ways to begin to forgive people for their wicked deeds is to realize they are operating with the consciousness they currently have. Good, bad, or indifferent, they are operating with the consciousness they have. Guess what? So are you. And if your consciousness has you in a broader space, a wiser space, has you in making better choices, making quality choices, accurate choices, choices with the flow of Tao, congratulations. You have gained a broader understanding and a wider stance of consciousness. They may not know that an ego-driven life leads to activity out of alignment with Tao and in alignment with all that opposes the natural flow of life. Go a step further. Start visualizing the people that you dislike because of their behaviors. Start visualizing them whole, complete, and living a God-realized life, a Tao-aligned life. So don't just accept and love, but begin to visualize them living a Tao-centered, complete, God-realized life. Man, it's powerful when you can get to the place where in your forgiveness, you decide to practice wishing the ones who've hurt you, the ones who disappointed you, the ones that didn't treat you the way you should have been treated, to be able to visualize them happy, fulfilled, and living a God-realized life. That's when you know you don't just believe this stuff. You are this stuff. You know how many people I've met who have high levels of spirituality in knowledge, but not in action? Many, many. And you know what I think is more important than what you know? What you show. That's what's more important. What and how you show up in the world is more important than what you think you know. We can know a lot and never become it. I want to be Tao-centered. I want to live from Tao. I want to live from presence. I choose to live from consciousness. I choose to live from love. Live love, live compassion, live truth. Instead of just saying it, I'm ready to live it. And this is what I believe it means. To live the Tao, a journey into life itself. Can I get a witness, somebody? Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited about this new series that we're popping into. Actually, the new series is titled Light Your World. Light Your World. We are celebrating the lights. And I love this Rumi quote. Don't you know yet? It is your light that shines or that lights the world. That's what Rumi said. Don't you know yet? It is your light that lights the world. Don't forget that all of our live stream is available. This weekend we're not getting together in person in Birmingham, just so everyone knows. But we're going to have our live stream. We had a conflict in schedule. That's why we're not getting together. But let's stay connected through the live stream, Sunday Connection, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard, which is 10 a.m. Central Standard. We have our meditation, get that too. We have our meditation Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 6:30 a.m. Midweek Connection, of course, we're doing that right now. So it starts at 7 p.m. We are available on YouTube. We're available on Facebook. IamOneLove.com is the website. Share that with your friends and your neighbors so that they know how to connect with us, especially those who are not Facebookers. They may be willing to go to YouTube and connect with us, and they can do that. We're live streaming to YouTube as well, which means they can be engaged, they can comment, they can get into the live chat room while the live stream is going. So that's a wonderful way for them to connect. There's a lot going on in the month of December, and we're going to be getting together in person. We just didn't happen to be able to do that this week. Again, it was just a conflict of schedules. But that info is online. It should be up on our Facebook page. It's as of today, it should be up on our Facebook page and also in our chat room. I want to say thank you to everyone who continues to support this ministry. Your support is very important. It helps us to continue doing what we're doing. The way to support is on the screen right now. P.O. Box 564, Gray, Georgia